Yeah, I think they got to start running the football. I asked for Dave Canales to be disciplined this week. I don't think we saw that last week. I think we saw a head coach who was, I don't know, maybe trying to overthink things, but they need to commit to running the football. I think the most important stat for them will be carries, not yards, but carries. How many times they actually hand the ball off to whether it's Chuba Hubbard or Miles Sanders or whoever. They've got to do that. All right. Last night, forget about. I mean, I know it's impossible to forget about the concussion, but I want to spend a little time on the first, 33 minutes when Tua threw the interception that ended the game. Is that? I mean, does Miami have a problem beating good teams? Last year they were 1-5 against playoff teams and 10-1 against non-playoff teams, which maybe isn't that crazy when you look around the league. But Miami's now getting this reputation for being front runners as opposed to somebody that can beat really good teams.
Yeah, there's no other way to put it. Unless you don't believe your lying eyes, that's exactly the case. And even before the concussion, I don't blame Tua for the first two interceptions. Grant DuBose hit him in the shoulder. He didn't turn around.
Right.
And the other one was to Robbie Chosen, who Carolina Panthers fans are familiar with, who either he ran the wrong route or Tua overthrew him. Those are plays that happen, but that just goes to show after you get past your two dogs and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, there's a enormous drop-off in talent in terms of receivers, which is a weird thing to say about this team that has so much speed on it. But, yeah, I mean, on the biggest stage, national television audience, at home, you have the advantage in that it's 4,000 degrees even at 8:30 p.m. kickoff, and you go out there and lay an egg like that, and then you see Josh Allen do what Josh Allen always does, and that's discouraging. And I think that points to – I don't know if Mike McDaniel gets too cute. It feels like it does when they play teams that they're not steamrolling 50-0.
Right.
Those things don't seem to work. But I think your points are valid ones and points that fans have been bringing up for a while, especially Dolphins fans. Why can't we beat good teams? And this was a thorough whooping even before Tua unfortunately got hurt. They weren't in that game. At halftime, it looked like it was over, and then clearly after Tua went out, there was no chance.
So is Kansas City or San Francisco the best team in the league?
I think it's Kansas City. I want to see what the 49ers do this weekend. They play the Vikings. And the Vikings and Brian Flores, they will get after defensively. We'll see if the Sam Darnold effect lasts more than 1 week because he had a great start, and that was good to see finally, however many years after getting drafted. The Chiefs, I feel pretty good about because we know who Steve Spagnuolo is, and that defense is young and fast. They have Chris Jones in the middle, of course. And offensively, I think those are the best weapons that Patrick's had since Tyreek left for Miami. And even though Hollywood Brown, it sounds like somebody even longer now, we saw what Xavier Worthy, the rookie, can do. Rasheed Rice apparently isn't going to get suspended, at least as we sit here. And he was instrumental to the success they had the last two-thirds of the season. You forget the last half of the season, even as a rookie. And I think that team is going to be a real problem this week in and week out.
Yeah, the speed element of Xavier Worthy just opens up every single thing underneath for them. And underrated is, I guess did they list Watson as a wide receiver or a tight end, but they have multiple receiving options at that position with former Duke guy Noah Gray as well. And that Kelsey, I think Kelsey's still pretty good. But what their commitment to running the football also is alarming. If they're going to run the ball that effectively, I just don't know what you do with them.
Right. And that's a great point, Adam, because you remember back in the Eagles days, everyone would get so angry with Andy Reid because he refused to run the ball. All he did was throw it. And he's evolved as a coach, and he is the best, or certainly one of the best. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame either way, NFL coaches in a long, long time. And I think the ability to understand what you do well, even with someone like Patrick Mahomes back there, is what makes that team so much more effective offensively. And we talked to Andy Reid at the Combine, and I asked him, were you able to be more aggressive offensively because you knew how good the defense was with Steve Spagnuolo? And he said, absolutely. That solves a lot of our issues in terms of being risk-taking because we can know even if we don't get it on a 4th and 1, we're going to get the ball back pretty quickly, which makes them somehow even more dangerous than they were before. Their defense took it to another level once Spags arrived on the scene.
All right, a couple of more. I want to ask you about teams. Are you alarmed or not? Anything alarming about the Bengals, especially with videos we have seen about Joe Burrow kind of playing around with his right wrist?
As someone who is OCD, I understand why you would, if something hurts, you want to make sure it doesn't hurt, and you sort of focus on that. And maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. I don't know what his process is in the moment. I am concerned about that team, though. One of the not so fun facts, if you're a Bengals fan, is that the Bengals are 1-10 under Zach Taylor in weeks 1 and 2. And that one win came in overtime against the Vikings a few years ago. So they're about to be 1-11, I imagine, because they're facing the Chiefs.
Right.
So it's less troubling in that sense. Historically, they start slow. But T. Higgins ain't out there. Jamar Chase seems uninspired. All contract related, I would imagine. This is just me speculating. And then Joe Burrow has an injury history, and it looks like he's favoring their injury. He's trying to come back from. It looked terrible last week against a terrible Patriots team. So yeah, I'm really concerned about a team that I thought had a chance to make the playoffs 2 weeks ago.
Dallas thumped Cleveland on the road. Is that a Dallas just that impressive, or is that a Cleveland problem?
I give Dallas credit. They were somehow underdogs going into that game according to Vegas. I didn't know how that was going to work. I don't understand why people could keep thinking that next week is the week that Deshaun Watson is going to put it all together when we have years of data that suggests that isn't going to happen. I feel good about where Dallas is, especially since why they had to give him $5 million more per year than everyone else in Dak Prescott. That's the Jerry Jones thing.
Yeah.
But they paid Dak, which is good. They paid CD, and Mike will be next. I think they're in a great spot. The Browns are in a worse spot than the Bengals, and I don't even think it's close. Their quarterback is not great, and you can say the offensive line stunk. You can say that it's rust. I will just point you to last year where Joe Flacco literally got off his couch and went to Cleveland and helped get that team to the playoffs. And if he can do it, then certainly you would imagine someone making $230+ million guaranteed could do it. And I don't know how the Browns get out of this, Adam, because if they cut the cord, it's going to be a 5-year rebuild because of the salary cap implications. If they stick with it, it could be longer than that. So they're in bad shape.
Yeah, I mean, they can't get rid of – I mean, I know people are like, well, if with this latest lawsuit, civil suit brought against him, they could get out of the contract. I just don't know legally. Like, technically, letter of the law, they might be able to do that in the NFL, but everything that happened at the same time. So I just think they'd lose in an actual court. And ultimately, they at the very least, they might have to pay him. Maybe the NFL doesn't hit him with a $172 million dead cap charge, but there's nothing good that's going to come out of that. And finally, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, who's the better option for the Steelers?
I said last week that I thought Justin Fields made more sense because they could just run the ball 35 times. I think they ran it 41.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields looked like Justin Fields. What's interesting about this week's game, I went back and looked. Justin Fields' best game ever in the NFL came last year in Week 4, Bears versus the Russell Wilson Broncos.
Right.
He threw for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's 40 yards more than he's ever thrown in an NFL game. So they're the same guys playing on that defense in Denver. And I think you're okay rolling one more week with Justin if Russ is 100%. And then you reevaluate from there because one maybe is slightly better than the other. But as long as you're not turning the ball over, it doesn't matter who's playing because it's going to be all about T.J. Watt.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, sort of winning games for you. And these are going to be 17, 14 games from here on out until you can figure out if you can push the ball down the field consistently. We didn't see that in Week 1. We'll see if that changes in Week 2. But I'm in no rush to change from Justin if he can take care of the football and if he plays a little better. Pushing the ball down the field this week against a Broncos team he did well against last year, even better. But we'll have to – I mean, there's no urgency here.
So you said 17-14. I know it wasn't a score prediction, but I'm just trying to figure out how the Steelers get to 17. Is that a safety and 5 field goals?
Right.
They're not scoring a touchdown.
The kicker, Chris Boswell, maybe scores on a fake field goal and gets in the end zone that way. But you're right. Yeah, they have yet to find the end zone, and there's no lies detected, as the kids say.
Ryan Wilson, at Ryan Wilson, CBS, CBSSports.com, with the First Pick Podcast with Rick Spielman. Say hi to everybody, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Adam.
You got it, Ryan Wilson here on the Adam Gold Show.